Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of On the Sidelines. My name is Matthew Lee Bruni,
And my name is Benedict Rhodes.
and we hope everyone is continuing to stay safe during these tough times. I mean, it has been a while since we've last filmed. So, Ben, what have you been up to lately?
Yeah, you mentioned it's been a long time since you filmed. I think it's been almost 2 months, unfortunately. But yeah, back to school certainly hasn't helped that. You're in the same boat there, and so a lot of people are gonna be watching this probably. But yeah, just mostly back to school and getting a lot of assignments and procrastinating on some, but trying to get back into into the rhythm of things. But what about yourself?
Yeah, same like you. Just been like trying to get used to just Zoom calls. Really, like that's all. I mean, that's all most of us are basically doing now. So it's just trying to get used to that and just trying to get to used to the new norm and hopefully we'll be back to it sooner than later. I mean, we definitely are in the sports world because we do have a lot. There are a lot of sports on right now from the last time we filmed. We're going to start with the MLB playoffs, which begin this week. It's starting with the best of three wildcard series, so there's going to be 8 series in total, 4 in the AL and 4 in the NL. And for those series, the better seed hosts the best of three series, and then after that, it will move to a neutral field sites, I should say, in San Diego, Los Angeles, Arlington, and Houston, with championship champion being crowned in the new Rangers Stadium. Um, so Ben, do you like this idea of neutral fields after the wild card series?
Yeah, I do. If there's no fans, excuse me, if there's no fans in attendance, I don't mind neutral fields. There's no point in traveling back and forth like across the country, like Tampa Bay to Toronto or Buffalo, I guess, in the Jays sense. Like after this first round, like if you have to travel across distances like that, then I think it's or Buffalo to I don't know, let's say the Dodgers and the Jays meet in the World Series. Like that's a lot of traveling, and I think unnecessarily so. So I think without fans, just make it a made for TV product and stick it in a neutral site like Globe Life Stadium behind me here. I think that makes the most sense. What about you?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Like, I think I mean, when you look back at like the NHL and NBA bubbles and how successful those have been, I feel like MLB was kind of like forced to kind of make that decision, like because it will be right for them, and they won't have any like hopefully they wouldn't have like any COVID outbreak like what happened to the Marlins and the Cardinals earlier this season. Like, I mean, I think like most people, I was worried that the season wouldn't really continue that far in, like because who knows how far that COVID could spread amongst other teams. But yeah, I think that going with the neutral fields for the playoffs, like different bubbles, is the right thing for them to do.
We kind of discussed this months ago, so if you want to read or listen about this more in depth, go back to our previous videos. But I think both of us were kind of supporting the idea that they should have done bubbles from the beginning, like starting in different markets. Like I didn't, like you mentioned, I didn't think baseball was going to last more than 2 weeks, the rate it was going. So maybe they should have done this from the start with these same stadiums in LA, Arlington, Houston, and San Diego. Maybe should have been the four they used already. But I'm glad they're doing it for the playoffs, just to make sure there's no delay in the World Series. You don't have to stop because someone got COVID or something. So yeah, I do like the neutral field.
Yeah, props to MLB too, because I don't think they had like I think it was like one day out of like 35 plus days or something that they didn't have like a COVID case amongst like a player
Yeah,
or something like that, if I remember correctly. So
yeah,
I mean, props to them, but I think that keeping them in like bubbles is like the best thing to do, and it prevents them from going out, potentially getting in and spreading it amongst the team. So yeah, it's I think if they want to get through the playoffs, what their plan is the best thing for them to do.
yeah.
Um, but like we made a video just before the season started in July, and we were looking back at our early season predictions. And I'm gonna read them out actually right now. So me and Ben both had the Yankees coming out of the AL. And then Ben had the Dodgers, and I had the Nationals, who didn't even make the playoffs, coming out of the NL. Um, and Ben had the World Series winners as the Dodgers, and I had the Yankees. So Ben, are you still sticking with your Yankees Dodgers World Series prediction, or are you changing it?
I'll still back the Dodgers. I'm less sure about the Yankees now than I was at the start of the season because of I've had a lot of injuries and just some very bad games as well. So I might change the Yankees. I think I'll back. Uh, I think I don't know if they're good enough to go all the way because I think they have the lowest payroll in the league or one of the lowest. But I think I'll back Tampa Bay because they've been really good this year. And like I said, I think Giancarlo Stanton, Masahiro Tanaka, and Garrett Cole, I think combined, their salary is more than the entire Rays salary. So I do like a good underdog story as well. So I'll back the Rays in the American League, and I'll continue my support, I guess, for the Dodgers in the National League. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think I think I am sticking with the Dodgers to come out of the NL. Or sorry, I shouldn't be. I had the Nationals, but they didn't even come out of the NL, or they're not even making the playoffs. So I think I'm obviously going to change that to the Dodgers. I mean, they've been the most dominant team of the season, and I think that they're going to go again to the World Series. I don't know if they're going to win necessarily, but I think that they're going to make it back there. But also in regards to the AL, I think like you mentioned, the Rays have been one of the better teams in the AL, or the best team in the AL. Also, I think another team that could potentially make it is probably like an Oakland or Minnesota. I mean, I think they're the 2 and 3 seed if I'm not wrong. So I
Yeah,
think that
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so I think they have a good chance to make it too. But I think like you, I'm gonna say the Rays are gonna make it with the Dodgers.
And if you had to make a bold prediction, maybe for the playoffs, what would it be?
Um, I think like looking at the wild card or like
Or
just in
just
general.
wild card, or generally either one.
Well, maybe like because the wild card is this week, and I think maybe one of my predictions, like if I'm looking at the series, I think potentially, Cleveland might beat New York. I know Cleveland's the higher seed, but I think they have a good chance to beat New York. Um, Also, I think that the Chicago and Oakland series is going to be exciting too. So maybe I think Chicago, like the White Sox had Lucas Giolito, who I think threw a no hitter this year is starting. So maybe they have potentially a chance to be Oakland. Um, and also San Diego is another exciting team out of the NL, so maybe they have a good chance. But I think I think there's going to be like, I mean, my bold prediction is that there's going to be a couple upsets because it's 2020 and we never know what's going to happen. So yeah, I don't know who's going to win, but like I think there's going to be some kind of upset, maybe like a 2-7, 3-6.
Especially with such short series, like anything can happen. Like I mentioned, both of us still think the Rays might go all the way, but at the same time, the Blue Jays aren't a pushover like we thought they might be this year. And I know Bo Bichette, I think, said like we don't fear anybody. We're gonna take on them and we can beat them. So they're obviously a confident group. So you could even see a couple of 8 seeds moving on. I don't think the Brewers will beat the Dodgers, but like you said, it's 2020. Anything can happen in 2020. My bold prediction is going to be that both 7 seeds will move on. The White Sox will beat the Athletics, and the Reds will beat the Braves. It's bold, and that'll probably come back to bite me, but it's a bold prediction, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the Reds and White Sox moving on. I think also like uh, which, the series, the Miami and Chicago series. I mean, Miami. I mean, no one thought Miami would make the playoffs. I mean, albeit it was an expanded playoff, so you could say that. But I mean, Miami. Maybe they have a chance to move on. I don't know. Crazy things might happen with Miami, but they might have a chance too. But yeah, as the 6th seed, I think they have another like a shot as well.
And that's been the sort of weird thing about this season because there's been these sort of expanded playoffs and a different format for this year. Seeing a lot of these, obviously a shorter season as well. We're seeing a lot of these teams that maybe didn't expect to do well are now could potentially win a World Series because they got so not I don't want to say a fluke playoff spot, but like maybe a lucky bounce into the playoffs. Like you look at the Blue Jays, the White Sox, the Marlins, the Reds, the Padres have been really good. Like you think like some of these teams weren't expected to be as good as they were maybe coming into the season.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of like teams that were like in rebuilding mode that have already shown their success. I mean, like, with the help of the expanded playoffs, I think that having this best of three series, like if they move on or not, will help them in the future, probably potentially for next season. I mean, we might not know if they continue this kind of format, um, but yeah, I think that this is a great experience for like the rebuilding teams.
And the other thing, because they're rebuilding, a lot of them are young, very young players and energetic, maybe more than some of the veteran teams like the Yankees, who have had a sort of aging and a bit injury prone team as well. So the Blue Jays were able to sprint when the Yankees could only jog into the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they didn't win as many games, but they sort of got on little hot streaks every now and again and kind of to force their way into the conversation.
yeah. So in summary, going back to our World Series winner, you had
I had the Dodgers, but I'm not going to take the Yankees anymore. I'm going to take the Dodgers beating the Rays.
okay, and I'm gonna do the opposite and take the Rays being the Dodgers. I mean, we'll see what happens this week and continuing to October, but yeah. Um, Next on, we're going to move on to the NHL playoffs that just finished early this week with the Tampa Bay Lightning beating the Dallas Stars in 6 games to win their second Stanley Cup and their first since 2004.
Yeah, it was a great game. I know we both thought maybe the Stars might push it to a game seven, but the Lightning got it done in six in the end. And a bunch of longtime Lightning players finally got their hands on the Stanley Cup, so that was pretty exciting for them. Like Captain Steven Stamkos, of course, he's a star in this league, but unfortunately he's had some injuries, but he's been around for a long time. Victor Hedman won the Conn Smythe Award. He's been around for a long time. Alex Killorn was drafted in 2007. I think he started the NHL in 2011, and there's a bunch of other players from 2011 and 2012 as well. So this team has been building up for a long time. A lot of it, that sort of core group of players. So yeah, it's sort of exciting to see them finally get their hands on a cup.
Yeah, and I mean, looking back at the playoffs in general, like what did you think about like how it overall went? Like, going from the qualifier round all the way to the cup final. How did you think of all that and like how the bubbles worked out?
I thought it was really good. I think the NHL did a really good job. I can't remember if there's any positive cases at all, and if there was, I don't remember them. It's been a long time anyway. Um, so I think they've done a really good job at maintaining the bubble. I think that it was a product made for TV because it had to be with no fans, I guess, and it was just I thought really good. Like the broadcasts were excellent from all the different broadcasters. I think Kevin Bieksa on Sportsnet and CBC was maybe more of a star of these playoffs than some of the players were. He was incredible, and I hope he comes back as an analyst next year as well. Um, but yeah, overall, I thought the playoffs were very good on the ice as well, of course. With yeah, a lot of good teams playing a lot of games and a couple upsets. Like I don't think many people expected the Dallas Stars to be in the Stanley Cup final, but then they were. Nearly pushed it to a seventh game, and yeah, I thought it was a pretty good playoffs overall. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed everything. I mean, like there was so many exciting series, like from the qualifiers all the way, I mean, all the way to the cup final. I think I mean, there was a lot of games that were exciting. I think for Tampa Bay's in regards to Tampa Bay, they had that five overtime game in the first round against Columbus, which when you continue to keep watching, you were just like, oh my god, when's this going to finish? And like it just like went on late into the night, and I'm pretty sure that it forced like the Bruins and Canes to play the next day, which was one of the more exciting parts of the playoffs. But yeah, overall, I think I definitely enjoyed it. I think, I mean, we would have probably liked to see a Canadian team do well, but I mean, the best that we had was Vancouver, who got eliminated in seven against Vegas. I think they actually had a good shot to win until, of course, they lost in Game Seven. But I think, like, other than that, everything else was great, and I did really enjoy watching playoff hockey in the summer.
Yeah, everyone was saying on Twitter last night like that's the closest the Stanley Cup has come to Canada in years because there's in Edmonton, of course, in the bubble. um, this isn't in my rundown, but I'll ask you anyway. What's your or do you think either of these teams will be good again next year? And do you have a prediction for how next year's season is maybe going to work out?
Um, well, I think looking at these two teams, I think Tampa will continue to be dominant. I think that, looking back at last year's collapse against Columbus was like far from them, far behind them. So I think that, they got rid of that. They won the cup this year. I think that next year, I think there'll be another, like a cup contender again. Also, I think maybe even the Dallas Stars too, depending on, the off season and free agency and everything. Um, I think looking into next season, I think that they had the NHL had a presumed date of December 1st, but I'm pretty sure that they're gonna like push it to like probably late December. Um, I mean, we won't even know like in December if fans can be allowed in like NHL arenas because I think that's what the NHL is pushing for. But I think, looking back at the bubble and all the success with that, I don't think that the NHL wants to have players stuck in bubbles for like what, like 4 or 5, 6 months. So I think that maybe like what the NFL is doing right now, they'll play in like home stadiums or whatever, or home arenas, I should say, like, traveling probably. But I think that they're gonna have like limited travel like MLB has. But yeah, I think that's probably what happened next year. What about you?
Yeah, on the ice, I agree with your point about the Lightning. I think the Lightning are going to be a very good team again, especially if they add to their already good roster and if they get a full season out of Steven Stamkos. If that happens, of course, then he's a game changer, of course, and captain of that team, and he could score a ton of goals and maybe even push them to further heights. So on the ice, I like the Lightning again. And you mentioned off the ice as well. I also heard the December 1st thing. I have a feeling you might be looking at a shortened season in 2020, 2021. Like I know the ECHL, for example, they play, I think, 72 games instead of 82. So even just that, knocking a couple of weeks off the season even could push it back till maybe even start the season on Christmas Day or something exciting, or maybe slightly before then. Um, yes, I think we're going to see a slightly shorter season, so we don't go into next summer again. Um, as for the markets, I'm not really sure about that. Like I kind of like the idea of doing the bubbles again, but I don't think they're going to do that because it's a lot of sacrifice from everyone, especially for a full season, not just the playoffs. So I don't think that's going to happen. But then the question is also going to be asked about should Canadian teams find a home in America if they're not allowed to have fans, like we're seeing in MLS with Toronto FC playing in Hartford, um, Montreal's playing in New Jersey, and Vancouver's playing in Portland. So I wonder if we're going to see that in the NHL. The 7 Canadian teams finding a home in the states somewhere, whether it's sharing an arena or finding another arena like a minor league arena or something. Oh, that'll be interesting to see as well. So yeah, a lot of time to worry about that still. Still a couple months left, but should be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, well, actually, about that, I think I heard somewhere that the NHL might want to do like an all Canadian bubble, or like an all
Yeah.
Canadian, like, like what the MLS did with Vancouver, Montreal, and TFC, like traveling in just in the country. So I mean, maybe we could potentially see that with the seven NHL teams. I mean, maybe they can do like phases, perhaps. Like for the first phase can be like just Canadian travel, and then maybe they can move on into like traveling into the US, hopefully, if COVID gets better by then. Um, but yeah, I think that I don't think like we mentioned the bubble. I don't think that they want to do that again. Not have players sacrifice like families and all that just to be stuck for like 4+ months.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I mean, we don't even know what the start date of the season is, so hopefully we'll get more clarity sooner than later. I mean, albeit the Stanley Cup final just finished. So yeah, we'll see.
Also, would be interesting maybe if maybe they could still do it, I guess, but maybe they could have like realign the divisions for one year, maybe to have like a Canadian division and like a North, Central, and South of America divisions or something. Like I think you'd say you have like the 7 Canadian teams. So let's say you had like 4 or 5 groups of 7 teams or something, of 6 to 7 teams. Then you could maybe do that, but that'd be a logistical nightmare probably. So I imagine they'll just said like you said like maybe like phases, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, we'll find out. I mean, free agency and the draft are coming up soon, so that will be something to be excited for.
And we're a year away from this is way down the line. Of course, we're also a year away from the Seattle Kraken joining the league as well for
Yeah,
2021-22. So be interested to see how teams handle things like rosters um, and preparing for the expansion draft, which can happen next year at some point. So it should
yeah,
be exciting.
definitely. Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, stay tuned to On the Sidelines. um, then our final topic of today is another playoff sort of situation is the NBA playoffs. We're now down to a final two, with the final beginning on Wednesday, which is September 30th. The Miami Heat and the LA Lakers. Matthew, what do you think of that finals matchup?
I think I expected the Lakers to be there as either going to be one of the two LA teams, but one of them choked, which we'll mention very soon. But I think in regards to the Heat, I mean, they had just an improbable run to the finals. I mean, unexpectedly beating teams like the Milwaukee Bucks and Boston Celtics to get there, and they did beat the Celtics in six to get in the Eastern Conference Finals. So they definitely did have a exciting run to the playoff or in the playoffs. I mean, we'll see if they can have the Cinderella run and win the whole thing. But I mean, that'll be tough. But a couple players like Tyler Hero, for example, has really been the hero for the Heat in the bubble, and also Jimmy Butler has been another dominant player for them. Yeah, and I think they just have like a great roster, and I mean, like I said, they could push the Lakers, but we'll see. I don't know if that will happen. Um, but yeah, what about you?
I'm just pretend I didn't hear that hero joke. um, yeah, I think the Heat are a good team, but I think it's gonna be tough to beat the Lakers. Like LeBron James he's been unstoppable, right? Like he's been incredible. He's his 17th year in the league in his 10th final or something. And I think 9 out of the last 10 years he's been in the final. So he's the best player in the world, the greatest of all time. And I suspect he's going to get another ring in a couple of weeks' time. Then, of course, LeBron is playing against his former team, Miami, where he won 2 championships. And he can win his 4th championship overall this year. This is, again, not something we had written down, but I just thought of. Um, if he wins this, it'll be 4 out of 10 championships, like 40%. But if he loses 3 out of 10, do you think this is always asked, I guess, but do you think losing this would sort of tarnish his reputation again, like losing another final, or do you think he's just doesn't matter? He's still the goat.
I mean, I think he's still the GOAT. I think whatever happens, I think he's still like up there. I mean, he's obviously not going to be better than players like Michael Jordan or a player like Michael Jordan, for example. But I think that whatever happens with the NBA Finals, I think he'll still be up there, like probably some people's Mount Rushmore as one of the best NBA players ever. Um, but I mean, I think the Lakers are lucky that they don't have to face a team like Boston or, you know, like because the Celtics Lakers rivalry would have been something great to watch. But I think that you know like facing a team like the Heat, like who's more sort of inexperienced, but clearly they haven't shown that in these playoffs. I think that like LeBron has a great chance to win his 4th this year, but I mean if he doesn't, I think that I don't really think his legacy will be tarnished that much. But yeah, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think I actually said I think he's the best of all time already. I think this was only just add to it if he wins, but there's nothing people saying, oh, he's only won 30% of his titles, like 3 out of 10 or whatever. But like I said, to me, it doesn't matter. I think he's still the best of all time. And this will just sort of cement that if he wins it.
Yeah,
If you had to make a prediction for this final, who's winning and in how many games?
I'm gonna say the Lakers in 6. I think the Heat will win 2 games out of this series, but I think overall the Lakers' talent will prevail. What about you?
I'll also take the Lakers, and I think they're gonna do it in 5. I think the Heat might win, maybe the first game or something, just to put a bit of pressure on. But I think the Lakers are gonna be too much for them. I think.
Yeah, we'll have to see in the next week or so what happens, but yeah, can't wait for that. And just briefly, the other LA team who had who was a complete mess this NBA playoffs, being or choking a 3-1 lead against the Denver Nuggets in the second round. Um, had a, I mean, they had their coach fired a little while ago. Doc Rivers was fired by the Clippers. He's been with the team, I'm pretty sure, for a long time. But yeah, what do you think about this? What happened with Doc Rivers and just the Clippers in general this playoff?
Right, like you said, he's been there for I think the better part of a decade. Like I think 2012 or 2013 or something is when he joined. So I'm a little bit surprised to see it, but I think the Clippers are just demanding success now. Like they just need to win their title. Uh, I don't know how much of a say Kawhi Leonard had in that because of course he tried to build this super team this offseason, which as you mentioned kind of failed against the Nuggets. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what other moves the Clippers make. Um, I don't know if I'm really surprised that Rivers is gone. I'm surprised it happened this year. If that makes sense. Like I think if he didn't win it next year, I would have expected him to go maybe. But I think after 1 year with his super team he's been waiting for, I think is a bit harsh on him. What about you?
Yeah, I think like you, I think just like having 1 year of like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, like I mean, it has only been 1 year, and it was it's in September now, so like it's like pushing the season. So I think with all everything that's happened this year, I think it was too early to do that. I think maybe if they didn't have a successful year next season, they probably could have fired him by then. But I think, yeah, I agree with you that I think it was a little too early to do that. Um, but yeah, I mean, just looking at the Clippers in general, they were just like, I mean, we all thought it was going to be a Lakers Clippers West final. I mean, we
Yeah,
didn't end up getting that because they blew a 3-1 lead, but I think maybe Kawhi probably regrets leaving right now. Like after that playoff series, probably regrets leaving right now, leaving Toronto.
yeah, maybe a little bit. I think he got everything he wanted in LA. Got to go back home. Got to play a little bit of the LeBron James game and sort of build his own team a little bit, and then they lost. So I do wonder what could have happened if he stayed in Toronto. Like Toronto fell out of the playoffs earlier than they would have liked as well. So who knows what would happen if he was still with them? But I guess we'll never know. Is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of NBA or any other topics either as well?
Um, well, I mean, I'll just briefly say that I mean the NBA playoffs are great. I think looking back at all our topics, I think it's great that we're talking about playoffs in three of the four major sports right now. I think that you know looking back a couple months ago, like with nothing, we had nothing to talk about other than like we were talking about like, oh, coming back, but now everything is successful, and like all the worries that we had about these bubbles working out or not. I mean, definitely those worries are out of the way now. But yeah, I think it's just great that we're talking about all these sports again, and yeah, it almost feels normal, but not really.
Yeah, I think it's been sort of a hat tip to all the leagues who've done these bubbles because I think pretty much all of them have been very well done. I mean, you mentioned another bubble, which is the Canadian Premier League bubble. We won't get too much into that today, maybe another day. But like they, I think played for 45 days or something out in PEI and not a single positive case. Then these other bubbles have all been pretty much perfect. So yeah, it's been great to see. Unfortunately, we had to have them, but I think considering how little time they had to sort them out, I think that it's been miraculous that all these seasons have reached the playoffs and some of them are not coming to an end. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm pretty overall like looking back to when we started the Off the Sidelines series. I think back in like March or April or whatever it was. Like I didn't think you were going to get to this point when we were talking about all these seasons actually ending. So yeah, testament to all those leagues for sure.
yeah, we were. Yeah, like when you mentioned in March, like we were just talking about, oh, this is canceled, this is canceled, this is postponed, and going back from that to now, I think like 6, 7 months later, it's just great to finally be talking about sports now, like that back now again.
Yeah, as you kind of mentioned, like we're gonna kind of retire the off the sidelines series now. I think like hopefully a second wave doesn't happen. We have to bring that back, but
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll won't retire it fully yet, just in case. But um, yeah, I think now we're gonna switch back to on the sidelines as stuff is starting to come back, and we'll start looking forward to the next seasons of these sports already rapidly approaching.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll we'll be talking about the MLB playoffs once they get into once they're fully into games and AL NLDSs, and yeah, we'll be talking about that for our next episode.
Yeah, and then also we have the MLS playoffs getting closer as well. TFC are doing really well, so yeah, lot of interesting stuff coming up.
Yep, can't wait for that.
Is there anything else you want to talk about or add?
I think I'm good. Yeah, I'm good for today.
Okay, in that case, thank you for watching this episode of On the Sidelines, episode 11, back to this series. Um, my name is Benedict Rhodes.
And I'm Matthew Lee Bernie.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. Everything's in the description. And yeah, thank you for watching.